The Toyota 4Runner is finally new for 2025, and in this video I'm going to cover the exterior changes, the interior changes, take it for a drive and see what these are like out on the road, as well as seeing what they're like off-road in the TRD Pro and Trail Hunter versions. We'll also talk about the kind of fuel economy you can expect, and then the pricing and how it compares to the competition these days. And so as far as the 6th generation 4Runner, well, it's just been 15 years since the last generation, and so it's a really big deal. We finally have a new one. They don't come around often. And so as far as the changes on the outside here, as you can see, it borrows heavily from the Tacoma. They're both designed by the same design studio and obviously share a lot beneath the skin as well, and so it makes complete sense. And it also is riding on the brand new TNGA-F platform, the same new truck platform we have from all the other brand new Toyota trucks and body-on-frame SUVs that we've seen in the past few years here. So that's going to give us extra rigidity, extra stiffness, and just be a lot more refined than the older platform. And so right up front there, you can see some headlights which are unique here to 4Runner, a little bit different than when you get on Tacoma, but you still have that same very flat nose, very boxy appearance, but all the curves this vehicle has too, with, you know, this chunky hood, the way that it has these ridges to it, the big iForceMAX badge here on these more powerful ones, but even just, you know, like the fenders and how they flare out and even have little like air intake scoops there in them. I mean, there's just a lot going on here, but it all is a really fun vibe, and to me it still pays homage to the prior generation 4Runner. It still is immediately recognizable as a 4Runner, but is absolutely fresh and new and, you know, evolutionary, but, you know, in a bold way. And so as far as the exterior changes goes, it is about 4.7 inches longer on a 2.4 inch longer wheelbase. The frame itself is 3 inches wider, and it's overall 2.1 inches wider for the actual body itself, but really, you know, flared out. And then on the TRD Pro and Trail Hunters especially, you have that extra flare with the fenders and a little bit of a wider stance even for those ones. And so, you know, it is a little bit of a bigger vehicle. It's also about an inch taller as well. So it is significantly bigger, especially that length, you know, has really grown, but, you know, it still is very compact. Obviously still has the nice short overhangs you want for off-roading and overlanding and all that. And here on this Limited that we have right now, you can see the extra chrome bits there in the grille. You also have some more street-based Dunlop tires here with some larger wheels that are, you know, a little bit more street-based. We also have the power running boards here, which is available on the Limited and on the Platinums as well. And otherwise, you know, on the sides here, again, I love, you know, the very signature traits you have with the big bold roof rack mounts there. You also have that C-pillar that is pretty iconic with, you know, the way that's designed in the back there. And then going out to the back end of the vehicle, you still have the power sliding rear window as standard. That was a key important thing that, you know, everyone really wanted, and we still have that. We also have, you know, some new taillights there. Obviously, every panel is completely brand new, but those taillights, you know, kind of, again, evolve what we're used to from 4Runner in the past, but give you, you know, a little bit more dimension there in those taillights now. And, you know, this one, of course, has the more paint on the rear bumper, but you can, again, get a little bit more of a rugged look with the other versions. And as far as the various trims, too, there is a bunch of different trims. They've actually added a couple more, even, believe it or not, up to 9 trims total for these. So it starts with the SR5, then you have the TRD Off-Road and the TRD Sport, and they each have a premium version of those to give you more equipment if you'd like. There's also going to be the Limited and the Platinum, as well as the TRD Pro and the Trail Hunter. And so, you know, lots of different choices here to pick from, and, you know, new powertrains here, lots to cover in this video. And so anyway, as far as the styling goes, I think it's a really nice evolution here for 2025. The interior of the 4Runner is very nice in here. A huge improvement, again, in every way over the old 4Runner. Now, if you're familiar with the new Tacoma, up front here, it is basically the same, aside from the fact that, you know, there's slightly different trims, and there's like the Platinum version for this that you can't get for a Tacoma that gives you some of the nice extra touches like a head-up display and heated rear seats, and, you know, so there's a few little differences there. But anyway, I'm in the Limited version here, and the Limited one is a very nice place to be. I think it's a nice middle ground in case you don't need the head-up display or the heated rear seats of the Platinum. You know, this kind of is a little bit of a lower price point, and still gives you all the other, you know, glitz and glamour of these top trims of the 4Runner. So anyway, first thing, sitting down in these seats, you have leather seats here in this one, and I really like this darker tan kind of color, like a light brown, and they are soft, comfortable seats. I really actually enjoy the softness of them. I mean, I feel like Tacoma was a little firmer with its seat. This seems a little more comfortable, and I really like them. I love that they're perforated, they're heated and ventilated here in the Limited, and the heating and ventilation is something that you can get even as low as TRD Sport Premium. So you don't have to go up to some super high trim in order to get a lot of these desirable features, which is great. And yeah, so I mean, really good seats. They also have power adjustments here. And then moving on to the steering wheel. Steering wheel is going to be all the same pretty much in all of these. It's a really nice 9-3 grip, little 10 and 2 notches. There's a decent assortment of buttons here on it, but once you know where everything's at, it's all logically arranged and easy to maneuver there. And yeah, just a really nice steering wheel. It is also a heated wheel. That is also something that you can get as low as, again, TRD Sport, TRD Off-Road, premium trims will enable you to get those nice features. And so great that you don't have to go up to those top trims in order to get the heated wheel. Now, as far as the gauge cluster goes, it is a standard 7-inch display in SR5, but in everything above SR5, you're going to get this 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster, and this is a really great cluster. It's the same thing we've seen in basically every other Toyota in the past couple of years that offers a digital cluster. It's very nicely arranged and lots of customization, which I really love. So you have the 2 pods here. You can customize what's on the left, what's on the right, what's in the middle. In addition to seeing all those things, which is really cool, you have the boost gauge, the electric boost here and the iForceMAX ones, some of your off-roading information, lots of good info there just in those. But then if you want to customize the look, you can also go in and have just a single pod. You can have no pods at all and just have everything just laid out, without the traditional look. You can also change the appearance of those pods, with 4 different looks for those. And so it's just so cool you can customize it that much. There's a lot of other vehicles and, competing vehicles that'll have, a little bit of customization, but not nearly as much as this. I love that you can custom tailor it to exactly what you want to see. Coming over to the middle here, you have this 14-inch touchscreen here in these upper trims. Now, that is, again, something that is available as low as TRD Sport Premium and TRD Off-Road Premium. But for SR5 and for, the non-premium versions of the TRD Sport and TRD Off-Road, you're going to have an 8-inch touchscreen. And honestly, the 8-inch screen is completely fine. They both run the same software. They're both just as fast, just as usable. It's just that this 14-inch screen, you can see the text from, a half a mile away because it's just all very large and very, easy to use. And I really love this Toyota infotainment system. It basically just defaults to using either your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto connection, and it's a wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto connection. But, so whenever you go into, like the music, it'll just go to Apple CarPlay. When you want to go to phone, it'll just go to Apple CarPlay. But whenever you don't have your phone connected, you can also do things the old-fashioned way here. And it's all just so quick and snappy, but even just the other stuff like, scrolling through radio stations, using the navigation, all that is very nice and easy. But I like that there's not a million submenus. There's just, basically a few things to pick from, and that's it. And otherwise, it's just your smartphone integration, because that's all everyone wants to do anyway. And I love that Toyota has recognized that and prioritized that. And so really well done as far as that goes. I also love how you have a huge volume knob here, and it's also hooked up to this JBL stereo. Now you get 6 speakers as standard. There's a 10 speaker system, I believe, and then it goes up to a 14 speaker as the top system here in these. And the really cool thing here is that on everything except that base system, you get the removable JBL speaker here right on the top of the dashboard, and that pops out, and you can take that and tailgate with it, camp, whatever you want to do, and then pop it back in there. And it's a fun little thing that they offer here on all of these. And the JBL stereo in the past, when I've sampled it in the Tacoma, it's pretty good. It's not amazing or anything, but really no one in this segment offers an amazing stereo. Honestly, this is probably one of the best ones, I'd say. Yeah, good that you do have a stereo upgrade option here. And then coming down, you have your climate controls, nice, large, chunky knobs. Now, I will say all this stuff is plastic. Even these nice switches you see, those are all plastic. I like the texture on them. And it's all very rugged and very, sturdy feeling, but just everything is plastic. Same thing, even like the door handles, big chunk of plastic, some rubberized surfaces and padded armrests and all that, but just I would have liked to see, you know, something, you know, maybe a little bit more metal in here, some other, you know, materials other than plastic, but you know, still is completely fine. And then you come down, you'll see you have a wireless phone charger here, which is basically, again, it's coming in everything except those lowest trims. And you also have your 2 USB-C jacks and a regular power outlet. And, you know, a nice space here, but I will say this is just barely rubberized. I mean, it is vertical, so hopefully it holds your phone in fairly well, but some of the best wireless charging pads out there these days, you know, do have a little bit more of a grippy surface, so your phone's not sliding around when you're driving. But also you'll see that you also have on the right of the shifter another extra little pocket here, which is great. Nice chunky shifter and chunky, you know, 4-wheel drive controls and all that. And then you have your 2 cup holders and the center armrest, which has some nice padding to it. And then you open that up and you'll see a pretty shallow area, honestly. But, you know, you can fit a few things in there. And you also do have another bonus space here in front of the passenger. I mean, the glove box area here, you have another little shelf with some little notches in it to hold things in place. And, you know, just nice to get those extra little spots. You also have double pockets in the doors here, which is great. Another little one at the top here. Now, moving on to the back seat here in the 4Runner. It is nicely improved. So you do get about 2.1 inches of extra rear legroom compared to the old 4Runner. I guess that's one of the perks of, you know, having this longer wheelbase, longer vehicle overall for the new 4Runners. And that is really important though, because I mean, it was a pretty cramped back seat before. I wouldn't call it super spacious, you know, still even for this new one, but I'm 5'9", we're sitting behind myself. I have about 3 inches of legroom to spare there. So certainly, again, is a nice improvement. Honestly, I think it's slightly better than my memory of what we get even with the new Tacoma. So it is a nice usable back seat. Again, I'd say it's still slightly smaller than Land Cruiser and a couple of the others, you know, this kind of competes with, but you know, is nicely improved here. And like I said, they can be heated in the platinum trim as well. Now, headroom, according to the spec sheet numbers, it does look like you lost a little under an inch of rear headroom. Now, there's a cutout there, but you'll see that there's also this extra bulk that really drops down forward of your head there in the back. So you're almost like seeing some of the headliner as you're looking forward here a little bit. You know, I'm not sure why there's that big bump out, but just keep in mind that is there. You did gain about 0.4 inches of front row headroom here, so that's, you know, a nice improvement. But otherwise, as far as backseat occupants goes, they have their own air vents there. They have also more USB-C jacks and another regular plug, because here in the iForceMAX versions, you get the 2400 watt plugs both here for the backseat and also one in the cargo area. There's also pockets in those doors as well, and a full down center armrest with cup holders built into it. And then moving on to the cargo space here, like I mentioned, the one big thing right up front is the fact you have the sliding rear windows still, which is great. That's also a power opening tailgate on these higher models, and it's got the kick to open feature as well. But then with that all opened up there, you can see that it's still a really nice, long, very wide space. And you'll see the floor is a little bit higher. I believe that's because of these iForceMAX versions having the battery pack there. And you'll see there is that extra little area you can open up there right towards the edge, and that gives you some extra space. But I guess they just, you know, put that there so that it's a flat load surface, of course, because you want that. You also have another little pocket there towards the back. It's kind of hard to reach, but you do have, you know, a little bit of extra space there for knickknacks. And you also look like you have pockets there on the left-hand side, but those are just for your actual 12-volt battery, which is back there, and also your tools to, you know, change a spare. And so, you know, no extra hidden cubbies or anything like that, aside from, again, that one on the front. But you do still see, again, that other 2400 watt plug back there, and also there's other various bins, because you can still get a third row in the 4Runner. It's only available in the base SR5 and then in the limited without the iForceMAX powertrain, because, again, that battery pack just ends up taking away the space you would otherwise have for that third row. But you can get a third row in those two trims. Everything else, unfortunately, I believe loses it, and especially anything with iForceMAX, you can't get the third row. So it's limited, but they do offer that third row still, which is nice if you want some jump seats. Again, they're not going to be huge, and, you know, you're going to be wanting to go up to a Sequoia if you want a real third row. but this is, just a nice thing to, certainly use in a pinch. And also, as far as other cargo carrying capacities, I know roof cargo is also something that's important to a lot of people, and they really improved that. So static, you can now put 770 pounds on the roof of this thing, again, properly equipped. And while you're moving, they actually upped it slightly as well. So I think it's 165 pounds up there whenever you're in motion. And so, great for those who camp, want to load up a roof box, whatever the case might be, you're able to still do that here in these, in addition to, again, having a nice large cargo area. But let's start up and go for a drive. The 4Runner here has the usual Toyota key, but on the back, all these new Toyota keys have, the model customization. So that does say 4Runner behind the sticker there. And just a plastic key, but still, a really nice key. And of course, it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. I believe Smart Key is standard on everything. And so you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, or in this case, the power button is what they call it here for the Max version, since they're hybrids. And you hit that, and it turns right on. All right, so setting off here in the 4Runner. So I am starting off here in a TRD Sport. Comes in just under $50,000. Nice and simple, and that's what I love, honestly. I mean, I love, the interior is still completely fine. The TRD Sport here even gives you the full 12-inch digital gauge cluster. These nice, soft, comfortable cloth seats. Totally happy, with these lower trims. They're still so nice with, all this basic standard equipment being so well done. But anyway, as far as initial driving impressions here, so, the first thing I'm noticing is you're sitting up nice and high here in 4Runner. Of course, it's a truck-based, body-on-frame SUV, and so as a result, though, I mean, especially with the TRD Sport here, you have that hood scoop to look out over, a very commanding view of the road. Windows are a little bit small, for sure. That is one key distinction between like this and like Land Cruiser, for example. Very tall and boxy, that has really big windows. This is a little bit more of a narrower field of view, but still is really good as far as visibility, with nice thin A-pillar, great view out of the sides, view out of the back is nice and easy, of course, that nice big rear window. And this also doesn't feel very big. You're high up off the ground, but it doesn't feel super long or super wide, so it feels like a very easy vehicle to drive is the point here. And even a little bit easier, of course, than Tacoma, being shorter. And so other things here that I'm really enjoying is all the same great driver stuff from Tacoma, because again, this shares so much with it. So some of this is going to be a rehash almost from Tacoma, where nice and responsive throttle, having that turbocharged engine. This one has just the regular iForce engine, still 287 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque, still really punchy. And I love all the turbo whooshing you get. And that whistling of the turbo is just so fun. As someone who grew up loving turbocharged vehicles, it's a really fun switch compared to the old 4Runner, of course, and it's 6-cylinder. But it's still, a nice mechanical, burly sounding engine, and yeah, just so punchy. And I think, the thing that, especially if you're coming out of, prior gen 4Runner, is just the drivability. Same thing again with Tacoma, where it's just having that turbo for those low RPMs is really great, and just allows you to not have to do as much gear hunting with the transmission, and just makes it a little bit easier being able to rely on that turbo a little bit. And also, as we just came to a stop here, brakes are nice and smooth, very easy to use, and no complaints there. Also, I've been really appreciating the steering weight here. It's not too heavy, not too light, just right, but very accurate. We do have electronic power steering for the first time here in 4Runner, and so that is notable, but it's completely fine. But doing a little acceleration here, pretty punchy. That was me. I took my foot off the gas, then went back on because I was adjusting for the car in front of me here. Also another 4Runner. So yeah, the transmission is actually really nice and snappy, very clean with its shifts, very well programmed too, where I put my foot into it, and if the turbo can't get me there, then it gives me a nice downshift nice and quickly, and there's no guessing game with any of this. It's very responsive, does exactly what I'm expecting it to do, and does it all very well. So really good as far as all that goes. And also here at some like suburban back road kind of speeds, nice and quiet and refined in here too. Yeah, I think there's actually a little bit less wind noise than the prior gen 4Runner in my opinion, and you know, again, just so nice to drive, so much smoother than the prior generation, but it still gives you that adventure feeling. It doesn't feel like you're driving, you know, some type of unibody thing or something. It still, you know, feels very trucky. It's just doing it in a better way, in my opinion. And one of the main reasons why everything is so much more polished and refined here and better with the handling is thanks to the TNGA-F platform. That's the new truck platform that all these new Toyota trucks and body-on-frame SUVs are on, and that gives you extra stiffness and rigidity over the, you know, old truck platforms that Toyota had, and so that allows them to, again, soften up, you know, the suspension components as a result, because you have that extra rigidity. And so it just means that it's, you know, going to be, again, very composed, and you know, just really great that we have this new gen platform here. Really makes this vehicle feel very modern for the first time in a long time. The tow rating for the 4Runner will of course vary depending on the trim that you have and the powertrain and all that, but these can tow up to 6,000 pounds. That's the max tow rating for these. And towing will be a little easier here in the new 4Runner thanks to the trailer backup assist that you have, and you know, some of those automated systems, in addition to having, like on the higher trims there, the 360 camera, you know, all those things are going to help, you know, just make it an easier trailing experience than we had in the past. And just like in the past, the 4Runner here is available with either rear-wheel drive with you know, an automatic locking diff, or you can go up to four-wheel drive, of course, and get an electronic locking rear diff. And then there's also, of course, the full-time four-wheel drive system that you have in the top Platinum and Limited with that iForceMAX powertrain. Fuel economy for the 4Runner here will vary, of course, depending on whether you get rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, or you know, go for the iForceMAX powertrain with its full-time four-wheel drive. So for the rear-wheel drive ones, you're going to be getting 22 mpg combined. That drops down to 21 mpg combined for the part-time four-wheel drive system. Then if you go for the iForceMAX powertrain, you'll get 23 mpg combined. But the big news for that one is that gains 3 mpg in the city thanks to the hybridization of that one. And so honestly, the fact that combined we are in the 20s is notable, you know, considering in the past, you know, you usually wouldn't crack into the 20s in these, you know, typically. And so, you know, it's good that we do have, you know, a little bit of a nice improvement in fuel economy there, while still, again, giving us that turbocharged punch down low, giving us that extra capability. It really is one of those, like, have your cake and eat it too kind of things. And now picking up the pace a little bit on some corners here. We're in the TRD Sport here, which I think is one of the best ones if you're trying to assess the handling of these, you know, with a little bit less, you know, off-roady tires and all that. But I mean, it still handles so well. Double wishbone front suspension in these things, you know, the more advanced rear suspension than before. You know, it just all makes this have a lot more confidence in corners for sure than the old version, while still retaining the charm of the old 4Runner. I think that's, you know, something, I know the old ones have a charm all their own, kind of an old school feel and vibe. But this, to me, still has a lot of that same fun and adventure, you know, mindset to it, but, you know, does it just with, again, more polish, and, you know, makes it so you don't have to compromise and say, well, yeah, but it's a 4Runner. Now you can have, you know, pretty good handling. Again, it's still a body-on-frame SUV. We're not talking about a sports car here, but it's just a very good handling vehicle, all things considered. And compared to, you know, some of the competitors, which aren't really, you know, complete direct competitors, but I mean, handles way better than Bronco, certainly way better than Wrangler. And part of that is also aided by the fact that we have a 2.4-inch longer wheelbase, so you have a little bit more of a stretch there, so it's going to give you a more planted feel as well as we're on this continually turning corner. You know, it does a really good job, and so that is, you know, but having, again, that platform, the longer wheelbase, all those things are going to be tangible improvements. And now here on the highway in the 4Runner, this highway is a little bit of a noisier surface, but you know, obviously this vehicle is not going to be luxury car quiet in here on the highway. But it's a really nice cruiser. I'm just so impressed with the ride quality too. It's so nice and smooth. And yeah, I also love, I'm enjoying, since I don't have any conversation going or I don't have any music playing, you can really hear that turbo spooling, and you hear it a lot whenever you're, you know, just lightly accelerating in traffic on the highway here and stuff. And it's just a fun little thing that'll be new to 4Runner, you know, buyers to hear that turbo, but it's a really cool sound. And yeah, I don't think anyone's going to complain. It's just, it makes its presence known. This thing is turbocharged. You might even be able to hear it. Little whistle. I love it. It's so fun. Otherwise though, I do have all the adaptive cruise control stuff on right now with the lane tracing assist, and it does a pretty good job. There was an instance just a minute ago where it was guiding me around a corner, but then the lane departure alert was warning me that I was about to hit the lines there, and it's like the lane trace assist is what was putting me there. And obviously, you know, you still have to drive this vehicle. It's a hands-on assist system, but it's just kind of funny that it was like guiding me towards that line, and then the other system was like, what are you doing so close to this line? But outside of that, it's really good. It does assertive steering. You know, it's really smooth with, you know, adjusting, you know, for the vehicles in front and braking smoothly, accelerating pretty smoothly. With that turbo, again, it's just so easy with passing power. You know, this motor's really nice and punchy, and so, you know, it's going to be a less you know, stressful experience than the prior gen 4Runner on the highway, where, you know, that might have had to gear hunt in the past to do some of that accelerating. Now you can kind of lean on that turbo a little bit more and a little less on the transmission. But as far as other safety tech here, everything is standard. Even blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert is now standard here in every 4Runner for 2025, which is really great. A lot of companies are starting to finally make everything standard like this as well, but it's great that Toyota is following that, and that we have everything as standard here. So there's no option packages you have to select. Now there's, you know, extra assistance stuff. You can get like a camera rearview mirror and other things, but as far as just the basics, it's all covered with Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, and then again, even blind spot monitoring added onto that, which is more so of a convenience thing. All right, so now we are in the Limited for some driving impressions here at the iForceMAX powertrain, and the Limited and the Platinum get the adaptive dampers too, so a little bit even more sophistication to the suspension here to smooth things out a little bit more than normal. But before we do any kind of assessment of the ride quality, I'm going to go ahead and put it up into the Sport Plus drive mode. There's Sport and Sport Plus, but we're in Sport Plus here. Let's turn down onto this back road and see how it accelerates with the Hybrid Max powertrain. We're going downhill, but here we go. The hybrid thing wanted to kick off the engine, but yeah, these things pull so well. They're so strong. So with the Hybrid Max, you get 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. That's the big one. 465 pound-feet of torque. Again, coming thanks to this 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, along with the hybrid component here. And so we don't have a 0 to 60 time for this, but you know, it really is punchy. And I think, you know, from a dig, it doesn't feel insanely fast. I think they kind of hold back some of that boost and stuff, but then once you're up and rolling, you know, passing power, climbing power, that's where you're really going to feel it. And so like now rolling, I mean, it lifts the nose up and it gets this thing moving very, very nicely. It's really a strong powertrain. Again, I was so impressed with it, you know, in the past year or so here in Tacoma, and now trying it out in 4Runner here. It feels just as good here in this as well. And so, you know, Sport Plus mode does give us, you know, slightly firmer dampers, and you know, I feel a little bit of extra firmness here, but you know, it's all designed to, again, give you the best handling possible, and you know, steering gets a little stiffer and all that here in that Sport Plus mode. But as we're going up into the mountains here and up into a canyon, this is where, I mean, usually cars do not feel very quick going up this stuff, but this feels nice and punchy. And because this is a little smaller, a little more aerodynamic than Land Cruiser, which, you know, uses this same powertrain, in this, it definitely feels like it's the stronger one of the two for sure. But now we have some tighter corners here. And try this out a little bit again. I'm not going to review this like a sports car, but just to kind of put this new platform and this new suspension through its paces. Like, again, electronic power steering feeling great here. You know, nice and weighty for the Sport Plus mode. But I mean, I, one, wouldn't have this much power climbing up this in the old 4Runner. Certainly wouldn't have as much handling poise, especially if you live in a place where you have elevation. You know, those of you who live in Colorado or other, you know, mountainous areas, the turbo is going to be a huge upgrade, especially for those places where, you know, naturally aspirated motors like the old 4Runners, you know, just really don't feel as strong. And this is going to give you that real nice punch. But yeah, the adaptive dampers here definitely give you some flatter handling. The full-time four-wheel drive system in this one here too might be helping me out a little bit here, but you know, overall it's just, yeah. Definitely doing a faster pace in this. You know, there's way less lean, way less body roll. So much better than the old 4Runner. Again, not a high bar to clear, but you know, it really does a good job. I mean, obviously, you know, I have some limits still. You know, I can't be super crazy with the handling here, but yeah, it definitely handles better than Land Cruiser, handles better than old 4Runner by a mile. But now I have it in the comfort drive mode. There's also a custom one. You can, you know, custom tailor all the individual parameters however you'd like. But in comfort mode here, it really does a good job of soaking up bumps. I mean, it's still a body-on-frame vehicle, so you still feel the occasional jitter over a little imperfection in the road. So it's not going to be Rolls-Royce smooth in here just because you have adaptive dampers. But it is, you know, certainly a little bit smoother. But honestly, again, this whole new generation of 4Runner all feel really nice. You know, the adaptive dampers are certainly a nice addition, but I think any new 4Runner is going to be a huge improvement in ride quality over what you got with the prior generation, of course. And so, yeah, but really nice to have those dampers. And I mean, you can't tell the difference between that Sport Plus mode, you know, stiffening everything up, and then, you know, the comfort mode here, being a little bit more relaxed and, you know, giving you certainly more lean now. So it does loosen things up nicely. Also, when you're cruising at low speeds here, like we're on this dirt road, just very light throttle, 10 miles per hour, it does roll electrically for a little bit until the gas engine kicks on. But, you know, because the iForceMAX gives you the electrified hybrid component here, it can shut down that gas engine, and that's why you get that nice improvement in city fuel economy of 23 mpg. And now we're coasting down a hill, and once again, gas engine completely off. And you can do all this without the engine, which just makes sense. You know, hybrids have always made so much sense, but it's like, why would the gas engine be on for this? Just coasting down a hill with the brakes on, you know, no point in having that. So it's really great we have the hybridization now here for 4Runner. All right, now let's talk about how this drives off-road. I got to test everything from a more basic TRD off-road on a fun trail, a lower speed course in the Trail Hunter, and a faster course in the TRD Pro, capping it off with a pretty big jump in that TRD Pro as well. I'll begin by saying that I'm no off-road expert, so I'll leave the dissecting of off-road performance to those more knowledgeable than myself, but nevertheless, here's my takeaways. Starting off with the fun trail on the TRD off-road, the 4Runner just feels so empowering with how well it tackles everything from going up and down steep hills to tight maneuvers, and much of that confidence comes thanks to the very handy multi-terrain monitor with a bunch of different camera views that are a huge help in situations like this, with your nose in the air when you're basically seeing nothing but sky through the windshield, or when you're trying to watch your sides while navigating a narrower part of a trail. It's great that even this TRD off-road premium trim gets all those cameras. Moving on to the Trail Hunter, you have a lot more capability with 10.1 inches of ground clearance, a 33-degree approach angle, and a 24-degree departure and breakover angle. This is made possible by a 1-inch lift, 2.5-inch Old Man Emu forged monotube position-sensitive shocks with piggyback-style remote reservoirs, and a stabilizer bar disconnect. You also get that multi-terrain monitor, roof rack, and my favorite part, the high mount air intake, along with a few other things. That loud induction noise you get in that air intake is just so fun, especially if you open that passenger window. Beyond the simple joy of whooshy sounds, the Trail Hunter is very impressive on more challenging trails when you're crawling over rocks and traversing other challenging terrain. And once again, especially on this course, those cameras were worth their weight in gold. Lastly, the TRD Pro is set up for higher speed off-roading and is a rowdy good time on this motocross course we got to drive it on. It soaks up the bumps very well and feels like it can handle it all without breaking a sweat, especially with that strong 465 pound-feet of torque. And lastly, that jump was the biggest one I've ever done and was so much fun. Obviously, I had to make sure I didn't go too fast over it, and I had a great coach there that was able to make sure I didn't screw it up, but done properly, it's impressive how even that just gets smoothed over so easily and feels so polished. Overall, the 4Runner may not be quite as capable as the Wrangler or the Bronco in certain situations, but for a large majority of off-roading, all the off-road focused trims of the 4Runner will make great companions for all your adventures. And lastly, speaking of Wrangler and Bronco, let's talk about pricing and how it compares to the competition. So, the 2025 4Runner starts at $42,220, including destination, for a rear-wheel drive SR5. The part-time four-wheel drive will cost you another $2,000, and at that price point, you still get the completely sufficient screens, all that advanced safety tech, and a far nicer interior than the old 4Runner. Honestly, if you have a tighter budget, don't feel the need to spend the extra money for the fancy trims if you just want a cool body-on-frame daily driver or don't mind off-roading the old-school way. I think my pick actually would be the next trim up, the TRD Sport, which adds in niceties like heated seats, wireless charger, leather-wrapped steering wheel, and a sportier look inside and out. One of those with the $2,000 four-wheel drive option comes in at $50,700 and seems very reasonable too. If you do want all those handy cameras and want more off-road capability though, the TRD Off-Road Premium trim comes in at about $56,420 and is starting to get pretty close to the pricing of its big brother, the Land Cruiser. And if you want the same iForceMAX powertrain the Land Cruiser comes with standard, the 4Runner will actually come out $1,000 more expensive, but does give you the bigger screens and all those cameras. Thankfully, if you're shopping the more street-focused trims, the 4Runner maintains a nice margin under the Land Cruiser, with the Limited giving you the most of the same stuff for $61,650, about $6,000 less than Land Cruiser. And if you're okay foregoing the hybrid engine, a Limited with four-wheel drive comes in under $59,000. And even the Platinum maxes out under $65,000. If you want all the capability of the TRD Pro or Trail Hunter, they'll both cost you over $68,000. And while they're very fun and capable, that is steep and is even about $4,000 more expensive than the TRD Pro and Trail Hunter versions of the Tacoma. But if you're looking for the best price for one of these, you're definitely going to want to go to mattmoranmotoring.com and click on the new Car Quotes tab. There you'll get access to invoice pricing and get connected with dealers in your area to check out the new 4Runner in person for yourself. There's a link in the description and also one in a pinned comment below. Now, as far as how that 4Runner compares to its competition, I think that Land Cruiser and Tacoma are the biggest competitors. If you can live with the tighter backseat and open truck bed, it's clear that Tacoma is the better value for basically all the same stuff. And because the Land Cruisers are a little less capable off-road than those top 4Runners, I can see the 4Runner's appeal. But if you're just looking for a cool daily, I think the extra space and prestige of the Land Cruiser for about the same money makes it the more appealing choice in my opinion, and I really enjoyed my week with the Land Cruiser. It's also worth noting that Lexus offers the off-road ready over-trail version of the GX 550 with the even stronger twin-turbo V6 for just $73,000. And what's $5,000 more when you're already at nearly $70,000 for a loaded 4Runner anyway? But back down on the lower end of the pricing spectrum here, I really like the Broncos still. And if you want something a little more rough and off-road focused, you know, the Bronco is a great choice, and a comparable base one of those with the automatic and the hardtop comes in under $44,000 and gives you the big touchscreen and the digital gauges, far less than the $50,000 plus price tag you'd need to pay for a 4Runner with those same features. And even at the top end, a Badlands version with a Sasquatch package with 35-inch tires and arguably more off-road capability than that top 4Runner comes in at nearly an identical $68,535, although it does have about 50 less pound-feet of torque and no hybridization, and again, the 4Runner will be the more refined one on the road. It's less compelling for the Wrangler, and while a Rubicon X trim with those big tires and more capability will run you just $63,000, you have much less power with that old V6 and much less refinement and are only saving about $5,000, so that's an easy pass in my mind. On the other end of the spectrum, Honda has a new Passport coming this year that's promising more capability and a similar starting price to the 4Runner, but that one's held back by its unibody platform and being down on power. If you want the best on-road manners though, Passport will likely be the smoothest of the bunch if you don't mind its compromises. At the end of the day, it all comes down to what your priorities are, but the final thing I'll say is that 4Runners typically have pretty strong resale values and have a reputation for being some of the most reliable vehicles in their segment as well, and those are very strong selling points on their own. If you like the rugged, durable, adventure vehicle vibe the 4Runner provides, I think this new one is better than ever and finally feels modern and competitive with everything else out there. No excuses needed anymore. It's far more appealing now, and if I needed a body-on-frame SUV, the 4Runner would be high on my shopping list. So that's all of my thoughts on the 4Runner. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thanks to Toyota for providing these vehicles and the opportunity and lodging to film this review. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.